Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. I'm Pinky Webb. Today on the program, a policeman who fatally shot a 52-year-old woman in Quezon City now faces murder and administrative charges. What can be done to stop the killings involving police personnel? Also, the government insists the country is on track in its COVID-19 vaccination plans as steady supply is seen in July. And later, Malacañang says President Duterte is weighing in on calls urging him to run for vice president, but a lawmaker thinks this is not possible under the Constitution. Senator Richard Dick Gordon joins us live. The Philippine National Police says it has enough evidence to file murder and administrative charges against Police Master Sergeant Hensi Zinampan. Zinampan was caught on video fatally shooting a 52-year-old woman in Fairview, Quezon City. In this video, the suspect is seen approaching the unarmed victim, threatening her, pulling her hair, and finally shooting her at point-blank range. Our George Cahiles has more.
From a dark alley in Fairview, Quezon City, a man emerges. Authorities identify him as Police Master Sergeant Hensi Zinampan. Zinampan was said to be drunk, not in uniform, and held a gun. The police officer was in a heated argument and voices of children were in the background. The policeman cocks the pistol and drags a woman by her hair. She was identified as Lilibeth Valdez, a neighbor. As the policeman presses the tip of the barrel on the back of her head, she was still able to plead. Then a gunshot echoes in the alley. Scream and cries of anguish as the suspect flees the crime scene, leaving his victim on the ground. The person recording the incident was also crying. The person holding the camera goes to the comfort room to hide after recording the crime on video. The police were quick to respond and arrested the suspect.
Kami nakikiramay sa pamilya ng victim at pinararating ang taus-pusong paghingi ng tawad sa lahat, pati na rin ating mga kabayan. Sa nakita natin na karumal-dumal na ginawa ng pulis ito.
Initial investigation shows the suspect had a long-standing feud with the victim's family. The latest, an altercation between the victim's son and the suspect on May 1. Zinampan has been in the service for 15 years. His recent assignment, the Police Security and Protection Group. He was also a member of the Special Action Force. The PNP says Zinampan has no administrative or criminal records. Just last December, Police Staff Sergeant Jonel Nuezca gunned down a mother and son in Paniki, Tarlac. It was also caught on video.
At nakakalungkot nga, in spite of our effort na pinapikita, at nakita natin magandang pagtanggap sa ating mga kabayan, doon sa ating intensyon na linisin ito, may mga sumisingit na ganyan.
Zinampan will face murder charges, and the PNP will file administrative charges that may lead to his dismissal from service. George Cahiles, CNN Philippines.
Let's go straight to the source of the story. We have Senator Richard Dick Gordon. Senator Gordon, welcome to The Source. It's Pinky. Thank you so much for your time.
Listeners and watchers.
Senator? Yes. All right. I want to start with that viral video. I'm sure you saw it. It's just very disturbing. It was so easy for the policeman to just pull his gun and shoot the victim. What were your thoughts upon seeing or reading this story?
Well, I was very, very revolted. That is not the act of any individual, let alone a policeman who's supposed to be trained to protect and to serve our country. And even if he was drunk, that becomes an alternative circumstance and can be converted into aggravated circumstance. And he is in a lot of trouble. I don't think I think we may as well consider the fact that you would lock him up and throw away the key. I have a bill that will put these people into heinous crimes, penitentiaries, separate from the population of jailed prisoners. And they will be there. It has been approved in the Senate. I'm just waiting approval in the lower house. And if we approve that, all these heinous crimes criminals can be placed in that facility, at pati pamilya nila maghihirap sa pagbisita sa kanila, pagdala ng pagkain, pag-worry sa kanila. That's the kind of life they deserve. They cannot be put out right away and then forget about it. Look at what happened. Nuesca came in and he forgot it right away. Do you know that this policeman even stated in his Facebook that not all policemen are like Nuesca, that we're good people basically? Just a few days or weeks after Nuesca, and yet now he is the one. And I think there's something wrong with the recruiting process. It's a psychological test and a psychological barrage that they should be undertaken. It should be undertaken by them because they're given a firearm and they lord it over our people. And if they don't have the psychological integrity, we will have some more of these people. It's just like America today, where you had that guy, black guy, who said, "I can't breathe," and they feel so powerful, and they don't care whether the captured individual dies. In this particular case, he was in a she was in a sari store, and she accosted I don't know, the sister or the mother of the person that she had an altercation with. I think he might have been beaten by that guy, and what happened was he just grabbed her by the hair and shot her point blank. I have seen so many of these things, Pinky, and only one is more than enough. But it seems that the police system must really show that it will be speedy justice and that he will be placed in jail and monitored.
But that's what you mentioned, it, speedy justice. Because of this, it reminds everyone of what happened back in December, the Nuesca case. And you are right, there is a post by this Hensi Zinampan. Ang sabi po niya, Senator, I'll read portions of it. The sin of Nuesca is not the sin of the entire PNP, as we have seen during the past disasters and this pandemic. We place our lives on the line as first responders and frontliners. So, ang sabi pa niya, I am proud to be a good cop. I guess it is very ironic that you have someone like Zinampan rather, who reacts. Doon po nangyari, doon sa ginawa ni Nuesca, saying that he is a good cop. And here we see something almost similar. Somebody from the vulnerable sector, as the CHR said, babae, at point blank, binaril na lang po.
Well, this is something that I think the whole society should figure out. Nuesca was a known repeat offender. He didn't want to have himself examined for drugs, and he has had a record. And I don't know why that guy was still in uniform. And in this particular case, you have a sleeper here who speaks gently, and then acts very violently and wildly. There's a special help for this kind of people. But in the meantime, I think media has a role to play here, that they must follow and make sure that this is the one. I would even go as far as say sensationalize it, because here you see him shooting the victim, grabbing her hair and shooting the victim. It shows a certain kind of depraved person, a bully. A woman, when you grab her hair, that's already bullying more than the usual bullying. And then when he draws his gun and fires at her, it shows depravity of mind. Something is wrong. Something is snapped there. And here is where the media should have a field day in making sure that the police system, I'm glad that they have General Eleazar there, who cannot contain himself also. I really don't think that he should be seen in public shaking that guy up or bumping his head against the wall. I think what the public needs is he should right away come out and say, and he has done it, he's a good officer, he should right away say, all right, this guy, I don't even talk about administrative case anymore. This guy is a criminal. And they should immediately, the Department of Justice and everybody, the whole force of the government, in this very, very, the start of the case, must act right away So much so that in the less than 2 or 3 months, you can see the results that he's already convicted. He's already being brought to a penal colony. And that to me is the most important part of it. And then continuous education of the police. What are the expectations of a policeman? You see, in the last 6 years, the expectations of a policeman have become one upon which, sige, patayin nyo pagka-criminal, patayin nyo pagka-drugs. And to a certain extent, I would say that, I don't want to say this, but President Duterte, the macho game that he plays has gotten into the minds of the police forces, and they think that they can have the law in their hands. Plus the fact that there have been so many riding in tandem killings with impunity. I could show you pictures and videos of policemen shooting down a barangay tanod, a harmless barangay tanod, who stopped him in the checkpoint, and these two guys come back, and you see it on television. The guy shooting in point blank and just scooting away, trying to shoot at the other barangay. There have been so many of them.
I have to change topics, no, Senator, but it's very important what you said a while ago, because sabi niyo po, what I heard, yung administrative, madali po yun, hindi ho ba? Yung criminal case, you said, what I heard was, you said in 2 to 3 months, dapat nakakulong na yan. But you see, that's really not happening. In the case of Nuesca, this happened in December. Until now, he's still being detained. And it's already June, hence 6 months later, Senator.
Yes, it's called Kabaro system. Hindi mo maalis na ibang police, they mollycoddle their fellow policemen. And I think it's necessary that is changed. In the old days, in the military, for example, when you do wrong, there is public kick, and they haven't even killed it. Let's say they perform some measure of cowardice. They would take out the epaulets, they would take out the buttons of his uniform, put him on the edge of the fort, and kick him out in public. Literally kick him out. Here, it's important that General Elizar is seen chastising him. I think he should maintain that, because violence is also being seen. And by the way, I will confess, I've done that when I was mayor. There were policemen who were abusing people, and to a certain extent, I've had to really do physical force at them. But to me, that doesn't work. To me, what works, and I found out in Subic, long ago when I was mayor, I told the policemen, if they do wrong, first of all, I would say, if you're drunk, guns and liquor don't mix. You have no chance. If you are caught shooting somebody, even defending somebody, and you're drunk, you're liable. It's just like a pilot flying a commercial plane. When he's drunk. He is immediately liable. And that's why I tell my people, and by the way, Pinky, I even locked up my own security people, 3 or 4 of them, when they get drunk and they have a gun, even if they didn't harm anybody, and I find out, they volunteer to go to jail. This is what the public wants to see. Na makita nila na pag nagluko ang isang pulis na ganito, nakita na nakakulong na, at talagang like any criminal, he will be treated like a criminal. Okay. No special favors, no visitations, I think, for a certain amount of time, and he must be seen as being punished right away. And 3 months later, there's a report, he's already convicted, he's already in Muntinlupa, and once in a while, the media should focus on him languishing there. And I think it's important that the public is made aware that you can't get away with it. And there are so many policemen who have gotten away with it. A culture of impunity, a culture of shooting down civilians, not just the police, but other folks. And I suspect some of them are involved as well.
Very quick question and a quick answer, please, Senator, because I have to move to other issues. Do you think the death penalty should be revived in cases such as this? And are you looking into a possible, because we're just not talking about this. Let me also add the ng agaw ng baril, whereas an 18-year-old was shot in Valenzuela City by a policeman as well.
Well, I don't think the death penalty will help. In the whole world, it has been found that the death penalty has not helped. Even in America, does it deter shooters in court, in public? There are so many, and yet they hardly are able to put people. There should be a long line of people on death row, but they're not doing that. Why? Because they know it doesn't work. And what works is a speedy justice. Making sure that he's shown in handcuffs, Talagang pag nakita ng tao
Yeah.
yan, and now putting these guys in a special cell, not a special cell, but a special building. And Senator Soto
Prison.
and I are the ones championing this. And even Senator
Okay.
Soto said, I hope I'm not misquoting him. He said that pag napas itong tinatawag nating special detention areas within Muntinlupa or within other areas, talagang lahat ng mga people that you go immediately to jail will find hell in being imprisoned and incarcerated. I think that is a bigger deterrent.
Let it be hell for them. Parang ganon. Senator, we need to take a very short break. The Source will be right back. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Pinky Webb. Our guest today is Senator Richard Gordon. Senator, very quickly also, no? Kasi later I want to talk about the CONCON, the 1971 to 72 CONCON, because also that's very important to look back to. Pero there's something very important. You had replied regarding the president running possibly as vice president. Ang sabi niyo po, there could be legal issues here. So just want to bring this in. Article 7, Section 4 of the Constitution, I'm sure you've memorized this, says the President of the Philippines is elected by direct vote of the people for a term of 6 years. He may only serve for one term and is ineligible for re-election. So you're saying hindi po pwedeng tumakbo, tama ho ba, si Pangulo bilang vice president?
That's correct. That is my preliminary statement, and I don't think I'm going to change it because it's very clear that the president shall not be eligible for, and this is the operative word, any re-election. It doesn't say the president shall not be eligible for re-election, meaning to say he can stop and then next time he can run for another elected position. That's still in the ambit of re-election. It says shall not be eligible for any re-election. That means if he goes down to vice president, he will not be allowed. No person who has succeeded the president and has served as such for more than 4 years shall be qualified for election to the same office at any time. So the intent of the Constitution, once you're president, that's it. That's the ultimate role you can play. Otherwise, people will be flouting the Constitution. And I don't think that's the intention of the president. It's his supporters that are worried, perhaps, and that, when you are running for president or you're backing up and you're in the president, you're backing up candidates and you're a strong leader, that gives a very strong sign of support in this country that is always thinking worse of themselves, na hindi natin kayang baguhin ang sistema, hindi makakapasok yung iba dahil hawak ng presidente yan, gagamitin niya ang buong puwersa. These are mythologies or myths na pinaperpetrate sa atin. Maraming pera, masyado maraming kaparali sa gobyerno, gagamit ng guns, goods, and gold. In the process, our minds are frozen and we begin to have doubts. Sabi nga ni Shakespeare, our doubts are traitors and make us fear the thing we ought to attempt by failing to makes us fail to win and lose by fearing to attempt. And that is to me something that is a message na binibigay sa atin.
So, Senator, if we were to look into that, you're right. No, I missed that word, which is very, very important. Yung any, and is ineligible for any re-election. What about instances wherein GMA, who was VP, who ran for president and then ran as congresswoman? You have former President Joseph Estrada, who also after that ran as mayor, and you have also hindi ho ba si Vice President Binay also ran for president. Aren't those covered by this any re-election that you were stating as well?
Yes, I think that should be covered. But again, you can talk about the complacency of our people, the passiveness of our people. Natatakot sila magdemanda, natatakot sila mag-file suit. And that fails to enrich the firmament of good judicial precedents in our cases. But the point is very clear. Why would they put the word any there? And say any re-election. There's got to be a meaning to that. And the interpretation is to prevent, as in General Washington when he became president, I can only serve for 2 years. And that was a self-imposed thing. And that became a tradition that is respected in the entire country. In the case of Gloria, she was able to have a couple of terms because she had not served the full term. and she's still within the corridor that she can run again. But in this particular instance, I think that the PDP Laban should tarry a little, take a look at the Constitution. Why is there a word any for any re-election?
Does that mean, Senator, that Vice President Lenny Robredo cannot run as president following that argument?
No, because the provision presumes that once you are president, you cannot run anymore for higher office. I mean, I could be wrong with my interpretation, but that's the way I see it. Otherwise, why put the word any? But on the other hand, when you have the vice president coming in and running for president, she can do that. But the limitation on the vice president is that she cannot run while in the second line. No person has succeeded as president and has served as such for more than 4 years shall be qualified for election to the same office at any time.
Senator, how about you? Have you firmed up, or are you more sure about your political plans? Because you had mentioned earlier, I believe with the Filipino-Chinese commerce, that you were saying that ayaw mo maging plastic, you will consider, or there is consideration to run for president. Have you firmed up any plans?
Well, I will consider it at any time. The only reason why I say that right now, I have not made up my mind, is to make sure that I am able to contribute to the education of our people, that they should not allow themselves to be bamboozled by surveys. It is not the surveys that we need to qualify somebody for president. It is not the money, it's not the guns, it's not the goods, it's not the gold, it's not the backing of a major political party. That has been disproven many times. And what we want, especially in this crucial time in our history, when we're getting out of one of the most severe pandemics and our most severe economic setback so far, is that people must really educate themselves. And I cite the Constitutional Convention. When we ran in the Constitutional Convention, we went province to province with other would-be delegates, and we debated before the public. And we were asked questions. Hindi yung guwapo, hindi yung may celebrity. Ang pinag-uusapan dyan ano ba ang kaya mong gawin? Can you prove that you have done that? Do you have a track record? Do you have a record of integrity? Do you have vision? Do you have values? And what are you going to do? We want to listen not to bola, but we want you to be specific in your answers. And I say that because I think I can put myself as an example, modesty aside, that I have gone through local government, I've gone through the Constitutional Convention and done very well. I've gone through creating jobs in Subic Bay when we were all prostate, na wala ang base, tinamaan pa kami ng pinatubo, na ibangon namin, and we motivated people to volunteer.
Yeah.
And this time of the way, pinapalabas natin ang galing ng Pilipino, nagvo-volunteer sila. They're part and parcel of the responsibility to bring our people up. And we were successful in Subic. We got the jobs back and then some. Same thing with tourism. We created jobs, we created investment. And in the Senate, we seat warmer. We stand up and we debate. And to me, that is most important in this election. You have to look at the qualifications, the track record, not the money, not the celebrity, but plainly look. And I say, pag tabi-tabihin nyo yan at talagang scrutinize yun na debate, lalabas at lalabas yun talagang may kakayahan.
And the Constitutional Convention, it was the 50th anniversary of the opening of the 1971 to 1972 Constitutional Convention. There were over 300 members, I believe 320 of them. And you were among the youngest, of course, back then. From obviously just going back, the goal really was to, as you mentioned a while ago, to listen to the people, alamin kung anong kailangan nila at hinaing nila, and really come up on a last note. What I wanted to ask you was that what would be the highlight for you, being one of the members of the Constitutional Convention back then? What would you want the Filipinos to remember about this?
Well, first place, I was not one among the youngest. I was the youngest. I swore in President Duterte Macapagal. At that time, Pinky, I dared to run. I was a second 10-year laws in there. And, I went toe-to-toe with the best and the brightest. You had 2 presidents. You had many, many former senators, many cabinet officials, some Supreme Court justices, some central bank governors. That was the creme de la creme of Philippine society at the time. Although it was really practically a mob sometimes because there are 320 of us. And what have we done? We experimented and we did the first parliamentary system, which meant it's a presidential primary pattern after France. And that meant that the legislation was faster and less costly. All right? That's most important because right now, the legislation is getting bigger and bigger, etc. And then we put in a bill of duties. That's my favorite. I'm sorry, I have to say what my favorite is. All the time we have a bill of rights. Ano ang karapatan ko? Pero wala yung katungkulan ng tao para ma-remind sa kanya. And presidents must teach this. The schools must teach this. That we have a duty to know. For example, if you're going to be at war, you're going to have to serve, like in Israel or Singapore. If you're going to serve abroad, you have the duty to make sure that you know para you don't become a burden to the state. Nakakatulong ka. If you're a doctor, you give time in the barangays. You're an engineer, you help build bridges, etc. That is part of it. And then, the economic provisions, I think that was, that started a slew of economic provisions, which was carried over in the next constitution, which was appointed. Remember that this was appointed. This was elected. 320 of us were elected. Yes. The following constitution was already appointed. So talagang there was a disconnect somewhere. And to my mind, that constitution was a pretty good constitution, and we debated everything. We challenged the ban Marcos. We were not afraid. We voted to ban Mr. Marcos, but we lost. There was an expose by a senior citizen by the name of Delegate Quintero, a very honorable man who revealed that there were some people being given by money from Malacañang. And that created a hue and outcry. And that to me are examples of how we must act. When there are things like that, we don't let it pass. So there are many things also that I think we did a little bit too overboard by putting up, let's say, discouraging foreign investments, which we're now tackling in the Senate right now. At that time, we had lesser population. We had 40 million people. Now we have 110 million people. We had a very educated population, and we didn't think that we needed foreign investment. So we barred foreign investment. But today, we have 110 million people. We are going through a lot of problems, and now we need foreign investment. The Constitution, Senator, the lessons learned there is you should not make it rigid. Hindi ka makakakilos pagka kailangan mong bumawi, and we should leave certain matters to the legislature that we elect.
Senator, thank you so much for your time. We're over time already, but thank you for your time as usual, Senator Richard Gordon.
Thank you. Thank you. Always stimulating to talk with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us here on The Source. I'm Pinky Webb. You're watching CNN Philippines.